We picked this up yesterday. It's a 2018 Gale RT 165 skid loader. It's got low hours, but it's been sitting outside, and it had stickers on it from the guy's company. And we took those, he actually took those off, and it still got some residue left on there from the stickers. So how we're gonna clean that off is just with lacquer thinner. People look at this paint and they just think it's too far gone because what's underneath the sticker is brand new paint. But then out here is all sun faded because it's been sitting outside for almost 6 years in the Texas heat. So it just fades it out. So what we'll do here is just get a wet rag, or wet the rag with lacquer thinner. You should be wearing gloves with lacquer thinner, but lacquer thinner eats the gloves. So I'm just gonna use it even though it's bad for me. It's a little bit of scrubbing, but all that residue does come off. And essentially what we're gonna do is just try to prep this so we can start buffing it. I did a test area and the oxidation was so heavy on it, it took forever because I'm using 3M #1. It's the heavy cutting compound with my wool pad. And it was taking forever to cut through it. So I came up with a different method, which I started on this side here already. I took a Scotch-Brite pad with some soapy water, and then I started scuffing it because then the buffer will just take it out. But they even had for whatever reason, companies put the serial numbers on the side of the machine, and I hate that. I just don't like it. So we'll show a picture of what it was when we got it. It had the black numbers. So I just use the same thing with the black, or with the lacquer thinner. I just soaked the rag. I basically put it on pretty heavy, and I soaked it, and then I just scrubbed it, and the black letters came off. But you can even see underneath how the black paint protected the original paint. So we're just gonna try to do away with all that. We'll show you how to buff it instead of having to repaint it, because repainting takes a long time, and it's just a bigger expense that you don't have to do. So, yeah. All right, so we're just gonna take some soapy water with a Scotch-Brite pad, and I already did some of the areas. And basically there's some people probably cringing saying, oh my gosh, what's he doing? But I'm gonna buff it out, and it's a machine. You can see all the scuff marks already. It's just trying to make it look a little bit nicer than what it is already. But it's essentially just taking off a little bit more of that oxidation, so I don't have to take it off with the wool pad and use more cutting compound. So if you go pretty hard in one spot, you can see the difference already. It's taken off a lot of that oxidation, because that's essentially what the cutting compound and the wool pad are gonna do. It's just gonna take off all that old oxidation. So I'm using 3M Perfected rubbing compound, the #1, so it's a heavy cut. Number one thing to do is just have your lid closed and just shake it, just so it's always consistent. And then I'm using a wool pad, a double-sided wool pad. And obviously you can see that I've already used it because it's yellow. So then what I'm gonna do is just take it, I just put a couple drops on the pad here, set it down, kind of just tap it in there, tap-a-roo. And then it starts removing that oxidation, so you can definitely see the difference. Let's put a little bit more. So when I put it on the pad, I just kind of get it in the spots where I'm gonna be working. Here, I'll just clean this first. It's basically just dressing the pad to keep it fluffy. Before you do that, let me turn this side up. So when I was in high school, I learned how to buff cars when I was a detailer at Len Dudas Motors in Stevens Point. And anyway, so the one thing that we learned is you do the flats first and then the corners, because corners have typically, it seems like less paint, not necessarily less paint, but it can burn through a whole lot easier. But equipment is typically really heavily painted. So a big thing with equipment is there's so many small, intricate parts that you kind of have to stay away from. Not because you're going to burn through them, you could, but if you watch the direction of the spin of the wheel, it's spinning clockwise. So if I was to come here, and the sharp edge here just goes up underneath, and I would hit here, I could jam this as it's spinning at a high RPM and basically just hurt yourself really bad. So you always got to constantly watch what angle you're watching, and then if you're going to hit just different pieces that could snag you and throw your machine. So just always be careful with that. You can hit the stickers with it too, but just try not to stay on there too long. It will take some of the coloring off, but in my opinion, it's better to be shiny yellow than it just makes it look like a little bit of highlights. So I think you're okay there, but like I said, you can stay on the stickers, just don't stay on there too long. Just makes it look so much nicer, in my opinion. So when the pad gets all clogged up like that, I just take the spur and it just kind of freshens up the pad a little bit. Seeing the numbers just disappear, it takes a little bit, but it'll go. It's kind of satisfying because then it just brings that back, the original shine. It's always important to get down at the angle that you're working at, because then you can see, I don't see any trace of the numbers, just the scratches obviously, but it's just removing all that and it puts a shine, if you can get it right on. Then you can start seeing yourself in the paint versus not being able to. Wow, that's really good looking paint. Oh, that's me. So this is the other side. It was the exact same thing with the stickers, and now it's just shiny again. I'll work on the undercarriage later. I want to get the sprockets painted just to make it look a little bit cleaner and just a little bit nicer. So, but yeah, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money in time painting if you don't want to. If the paint's decent enough, it'll come back. And then after this, I'll wash it and then wax it, and it lasts for a good while if you keep that up.